Welcome to a new podcast called Mark Drop, the series where I invite random guests on and we talk about whatever we feel like. Nick, it's a pleasure to have you on here.
I'm very happy to be here.
Now, this is not somebody I just picked up off the street. This is a very close cousin of mine. We've been very close for years. And Nick, I could give you an old grand introduction, but would you like to introduce yourself?
I would sure hope I wasn't found on the street.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
I'm here. I'm one of his bigger cousins. I really enjoy being around him. He's a great kid, really awesome kid. He's got a bright future ahead, and I look forward to participating in this first episode, and I'm sure we'll be able to make some more episodes together.
Sounds like he has a bright future in this league, you know.
This
He was
kid-
a high
this
draft
kid-
pick.
This kid, I mean, he's got look at his basketball career is crazy.
Yeah, I appreciate
But
that, man.
anyway, let's get to the point.
All right, yeah. So first topic of discussion is going to be questions to stump each other. So these are going to be deep questions. Some are going to be stupid questions. Some questions that can range from what is the meaning of life to is a hot dog a sandwich. You ready?
Oh, I'm ready whenever you're ready.
All right, first question. What do you think would be the worst type of apocalypse to be a part of?
That's a
Would it
great
be
question.
one where like some weather natural disaster wiped off everybody, zombie apocalypse? What's the worst?
Well, I think that in this day and age where everything is speculating about certain things happening in this world, I feel like a lot of people are already kind of prepared for something like a zombie apocalypse or something paranormal happening. However, I do think that that is the scariest to think about because, you may not know, like, who is close to you. You may not know who you're talking to. Say you come home and somebody's acting different and you don't know why, and then all of a sudden you're part of that team. You just all of a sudden you become a zombie or something like that. You don't know who to trust.
Is that a life that you'd be willing to live? Would you want to be the last one to survive in hopes that there's other humans around? Or would you just be like, I'm just going to off myself?
I think I think that also raises a great question as well. But, I think that if you're by yourself and you got to protect yourself from billions of people, that's
Right.
That's tough.
And you think also, wouldn't that loneliness get to you too? Like, let's say you got away from the zombies, you're in hiding. How long are you going to stay in hiding for? Like, you can only do it for so long before you're like, no, this life is not worth living.
I mean, I sure hope there's a prize for getting first if I'm the last one standing, Like, I think I would just fire up the old Xbox and just play and
Against nobody.
see.
Yeah, there's not going to be a lot of people on Fortnite, pal.
I would fire up NBA 2K20 and try to get in there. And do you remember those days, NBA 2K20?
Shoot. We used to hop on the Rec and Pro-Am every night. We would get the blue afros. Everybody, we would go into no. I know you remember Doc's Barber Shop. You would just go walk in there, and they would shave your head, and you would end up with a big afro. You came in with a fade, and they gave you an afro, and you had to just get the haircut.
Bro, just when you think about it, though, COVID was 4 years ago. I mean, it's still happening now. I mean, there's still stuff going around, but you think about like the outbreak
scamdemic.
and the. That's a great thought too.
Yeah.
But you think about
That's a whole rabbit hole.
we were locked up 4 years ago, and we played NBA 2K20. We played
Those are good times, man.
Fortnite. We were home. We were gaming with our friends. Like, that's a crazy time. Now, that kind of leads me into my next question, or my next thought is, what do you think, what kind of outbreak would have to happen for that to cause a crazy shutdown like that again?
Again?
Like, what do you think could cause that? I mean, with how much improvements we have to medicine and everything, what do you think would cause such an outbreak?
I think people will not let another shutdown happen. Like, if they were to say, okay, yeah, there's a new virus variant, like, people are not going to allow another shutdown. I think it has to be something really extreme. Like, that's a tough question, because you can go in a bunch of different ways with that. You could go with something to even do with, like, AI.
Yeah, right.
And that's
oh my
just
gosh,
really
that's
digging into the future.
Yeah, that's a huge.
Oh, you know what?
Thing.
I'll ask you this. I'll answer your question after this, but I want to get your thoughts. What are your thoughts on that microchip to put in your head?
Oh my
or
gosh.
or the back of your palm, or no, the front of your palm? You know what that
That
relates
is
to?
that is terrifying. Yes, and I mean, of course, that's something that's a very sensitive topic to talk about. However, I will speak on that. That is scary for me. That is scary for me. I'm sure a lot of people who follow religion know exactly what we're talking about.
Revelations.
But that having the idea that you are technologically advanced to the point where you can pay with a body part or get into certain things with just your hand. Like we already have Apple Pay. We already have Tap Pay. It's like
That's
stuff
the farthest it should go, man.
it's the furthest it should go because you don't want your body to be changed in a way where it could be damaging. I mean, one of my coworkers has diabetes and my mom does too, but when they used to take their blood, they used to chip their thumb, get their blood sugar. But he has this app on his phone. He puts it to his shoulder.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty
convenient,
cool. But that scares me just thinking about that. I mean, I'm not sure how that process works, but it's like you really put your phone to your shoulder and it tells you your blood sugar.
Yeah.
Like that. I mean, it saves you the pain. But
I've heard a lot. Also, like my mom has been telling me this because she does not like AirPods at all. She thinks that my brother and I, we should not have them. We shouldn't use them because of the Bluetooth messing with your brain. There isn't enough studies that talk about it being harmful at all, but what are your thoughts on the issue? Do you think it is an issue, or do you think it's not something we should worry about?
I've actually had this thought before too.
Yeah.
I do think I'm getting ringing in my ear. That's kind of crazy.
Oh.
I'm
talking to you right now.
I do think that is a thought to have because I always wondered, how does that happen? How do you connect from a device and it just gets to that? But then that would kind of question things about like just regular headphones. Like once you put over your head, like is that the same frequency that AirPods can carry or is it different?
And is any frequency okay?
Like I don't know how healthy that is for your brain. I mean, you got to also think about it like in social media too. Like when you're scrolling away for hours, how does your brain react to so much information so fast? Say for example, you're reading a book, right? You're getting that knowledge very slowly.
Yeah.
But if you're
it's at your own pace.
If you're scrolling away with these videos that are so eye-catching and like just they get your attention for like 2 seconds and then here's another video. Here's another video. You know what I mean? Like how dangerous is that for the brain? Or just phone consumption. I mean, we've had phones for, 15 years? Like, we've had mobile phones, iPhones, for like 15, 16, 17. I don't know when the first iPhone was made, but we were staring at screens for so long. Even our parents haven't been staring for so long. So what kind of effect does that have on our vision or our brains, in general? Like, it's just something to think about. I mean, what do you think? What do you think about the consumption of technology? But then again, another thought is computers. We've always had computers.
Not always, but yeah.
What do you think?
Well, you mentioned social media, and I'm against most social medias. Like YouTube is the only one I use, and I end up using that probably about more than 5 hours a day. It's pretty bad. All social media is addicting in one way or another, and hey, I'm willing to admit I'm pretty addicted to YouTube. I watch so much YouTube because, like you said, it's the information consumption. There's so much information out there, and you think like, okay, I gotta learn this new thing now. Right, I'm big on like learning. Like, shoot, I don't even have a business, but I love learning about sales and entrepreneurship. That's one of the things I learned. Like Alex Hormozy, even Hamza, Iman Gaji is a scammer, I think. But anyway,
that's another thing you can talk about.
But there was a video I saw. I didn't actually watch it, but I saw it pop up and recommend it. I bet a lot of y'all saw it as well. It was just, the title of the video was How Does Bluetooth Actually Exist? And it had like the AirPod Pros as the thumbnail. I haven't watched it, but I could see why it went viral because we're asking ourselves the same question. But Bluetooth and I don't know. They talk about radiation and stuff because I don't even put my phone in my pocket anymore. That's something that I've done. I don't put my phone in my pocket. If I have to, I will, but it's very rare. I had to make the change. At first, it was really tough to do that, but once I got over that initial hump of putting the phone in the pocket, it seems really natural to me now. Like, it seems unnatural to put it here.
Yeah, right.
The reason why I did it, I believe it was an Andrew Huberman podcast, Hamza, like I mentioned earlier. They all talk about it. It can lower your sperm count, which is directly related to your testosterone, and that's not good, right? We talk about the dip in testosterone nowadays compared to like the 1950s. That plays a big part. So the reason why that happens is due to that radiation and the heat that comes from your phone. You don't really sense it when you're holding it in your hand, but if it's actually there,
and you get
it
a
heats up.
notification or something.
Probably, yeah. There's probably something to do with it, but I just stay away from it. So my advice to anybody: stop trying. Stop putting your phone in your pocket so much. Okay, sorry. I want to go back to your original question. What was the original question again?
It was what kind of disease or
Yes.
thing
Okay.
that you think could cause an outbreak? That's a tough one because my thoughts on it are I'm worried about the animals. I feel like maybe animals or like say like birds or something. Like I think that kind of similar to like Ebola when things were transferred through was that Ebola? Through, like,
Mosquitoes, or which one was the one with mosquitoes?
that's like the Nile, the West Nile virus or something. I think that's
But
what it's
no.
called.
Speaking of mosquitoes,
Or malaria.
malaria.
That's what it
That,
is.
apparently, mosquitoes that have those diseases have somehow gotten to America. I've heard.
Ooh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Not to fearmonger, but
But that's why you wear your bug spray. Your
I
off
don't shoot.
spray.
But they say bug spray is bad for you because the aerosols, or no, that's for
Is
like
it?
global warming or something. But
Oh,
but I don't know about global warming either. I'm just a I'm just a high school kid, man. I don't know. But you can't live in fear. That's the underlying thing. If God wants you to go to a mosquito,
Yeah, right.
you're gonna go to a mosquito. That's how it is.
he
But
controls that.
you just gotta have faith and just understand. Look, God has a plan. Whatever happens in His plan was meant to be His will, not yours, and you should be fine. But okay. Let me think of another question to stump you. So I just asked you the apocalypse question. You just asked me a disease question. So we're
A lot.
pretty dark start to this episode.
Yeah, very
Let's try to
dark
brighten it up. Okay. I think the best way to brighten it up could be something to do with sports.
Mm.
This is actually going to take a dark turn, but whatever. I guess that's the theme of this episode. I've heard some people talking about sports and how ever since the beginning of civilization, they've been a distraction to the common people. Right? Like in Rome, there was so much corruption. So then they said, let's have the Colosseum. Let the common people have their fun watching, the Christians get persecuted and eaten by lions. Do you think that sports nowadays are a vehicle for distraction, or do you think people are just crazy?
That's a really good question, really good thought. I think that the changes in sports, like say like baseball, right? Baseball, it was lasting for a long time. I think they had it like 3.5 hours was the average. Now it's down to 2.5, right? So they're making games faster. It seems like NBA games aren't long that much as they used to be either. I would think that about maybe NFL because there's been a lot of speculation about them being scripted. So you kind of keeps you in there. It keeps you reeled
What are
into
your
that.
thoughts on that? Do you think it's scripted? Shoot, being an Eagles fan, it's kind of tough to say it's
I'm
not.
definitely going to have to go back and answer that other question.
Yeah.
But to answer that newer question that you have, I do think there's some script.
Yeah.
I think there's at least something that has to do with maybe conditioning or maybe it's just...
Do you think the players are involved, or is it just the refs?
I think that some of the players are.
Really?
Because I think there was a running back. What's his name? It was a running back. I think his name was Cunningham. Or he was on the Rams. I remember he said something about a script. He tweeted and said, "Wow, the script's crazy." Or there was a script that we had to follow, something like that. Like he revealed it.
It wasn't like a play script or something?
I don't know. See, that's the thought. It's
Yeah,
like,
a lot of conspiracies.
But then again, you also think about it like this: how do players get injured? How do they just say tear the ACL? Say they're doing non-contact. You can't really control, or even contact.
We'll think about WWE.
You can fake those, but like
No. In WWE, people like break their legs, get concussions, break their necks. Like it's part of the.
it's part of the game,
Yeah.
I guess. Yeah.
But I feel like at least something would be, like, I think it would have to be more mainstream and known.
I feel like
Okay, but how about this? If it was scripted, don't you think people would still watch? It's a good script.
it is, and I think they make a lot of jokes about it too. Like on social media, you'll see the NFL posting, "Oh, is this part of the script?" They know that people are aware of that. So wouldn't you think they would want to keep that like hidden?
That's true. So
But-
then they're keeping it hidden by putting it in plain sight, kind of thing.
Could be.
Yeah.
But
all right. So, what are your thoughts on the distraction part?
Well, think about it back in the day. I mean, you're gonna laugh, But think about it back in the day when Wilt Chamberlain and Bill Russell, all
My
those.
boy Wilt Chamberlain, Bill Russell backing each other down the post. Hey.
Shout out my boy Rodney for being an old head.
Oh yeah. Shout out Rodney, the old head. I don't know you, but he does. We love you, bro.
So basically, back in the day, I remember the conspiracy of Wilt not scoring 100 points was something to think about, right?
Yeah. Hot topic.
But see, now if you score 100 points in a game, that makes mainstream news.
Yeah.
And so that could be considered a big distraction to many because, like, oh, Wilt scored 100 points. I don't care what's happening. You know, if you're a big Wilt guy, something like that. Remember they stormed the court. They got into those games pretty cheap. I mean, those tickets weren't expensive, right? So
I got into the Wilt Chamberlain 100-point game for a nickel.
you could go into any games. I mean, my grandfather would say that, you know, you can go into any games for a few bucks, right? Yeah. And it's like that takes you away from your daily routine. So, you know, if you have other stuff going on, it could be a positive distraction. But at the same time, to answer your thing, is like if there is something going on in the world and then you see something in the ad, like the newspaper, oh, $1 tickets, that could be a big distraction.
I think there's a lot of distraction with entertainment. I mean, that's the goal of it, is to distract
and it's better than, you know, doing like substances or anything like.
Yeah.
You don't want to forget things through negative things, but rather if you're consuming entertainment for like joy.
Right, but then you got to wonder, is the entertainment positive? Because you hear all this stuff about like satanic agendas and stuff. Once again, getting very, you know, conspiracy.
A lot of the halftime shows.
Shows.
That's when they're mainstream.
I think this one was fine. The one that just happened. I didn't see anything relatively bad. Like, it's funny. I was actually looking to try to find something that was satanic in this halftime show, but
can't go wrong with Usher.
Usher. But you look at music nowadays, and a lot of people say music is satanic. And you know what's interesting? In the Islamic faith, they prohibit music because it distracts you from God. And honestly, I think Christians should implement that from time to time. Like, I've taken breaks from music. I just posted a video recently, quick plug, 48-hour music detox, how it went. Check it out. And I realized, like, we spend so much time with sound.
Wow.
And we don't get used to just silence.
This guy. Okay.
But no, for real though, like, it could be a It could be a distraction.
I've actually done that a couple times too. Not maybe 48 hours, but maybe a day.
Yeah.
I'll go just without listening to anything, and I realize I hear more things. Like, I'm more clear. You know what I mean? Like, if that makes sense.
The voices in your head get louder.
But it's like, I'll do that unintentionally. Like, oh man, you know, I forgot my headphones, right? And then I'm not doing it.
Going to the gym, forgetting your headphones, and you just got to hear
the Planet Fitness, like
Bro, I got so much beef with Planet Fitness. They kicked me out. It wasn't even because of like the lunk alarms. They didn't even let me in. Whatever. Continue. Sorry.
What's that one song? How it goes? It's watching SpongeBob and
Scooby Doo.
Yeah. Yeah.
My girlfriend took my PlayStation. She doing too much.
I can't.
That's the type of gym music.
Anyway.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's a good thought. Okay. I'm gonna change the trajectory of the conversation.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Ask you a good question, and I was.
Were you about to say a better question? Damn, that's crazy. I heard you stutter there. You were about to say better.
So I was talking to my boy Rodney. I mean, like I said, the old head. Wilt's the greatest of all time, right? And
yeah,
that's
Rodney, if you're watching this, Michael Jordan's the greatest player of all time. Next.
So he was telling me, he's like, what's your biggest what if in NBA history? And I told him, I said, what if Derrick Rose didn't get hurt?
That's a huge what if.
So what do you think? How far do you think Derrick Rose would have went if he had stayed healthy his whole career, played with the Bulls? Do you think he would have passed Michael for rings?
No.
6 rings is a lot.
No.
But he
wouldn't pass Michael. Here's why. I think he would play like Russell Westbrook. I mean, that's the closest comparison we have. Derrick Rose and Westbrook. And we see Westbrook. I mean, he doesn't even have 1 ring, right? Or did he get one with the Lakers? No. He doesn't have one yet. No. I think he would just be like Okay, so wait. We're in an NBA, no injuries happen? Or
Well,
just no injury
just for Rose.
Okay, okay.
Just for Rose because
So he never
the
gets injured in
talent.
his whole career. I mean, you could say he scored 100 points in a game then, like because on the trajectory he was on, he had an MVP, right?
Youngest MVP
Youngest
ever.
MVP. I'd say he'd be like Russell Westbrook with 2 rings.
I see.
2 rings. But then you gotta think, well, okay, if he didn't have that knee injury, would he have another? But you're saying he has no injuries at all. His
No.
career just plays out.
I mean that.
I could say maybe 2 or 3 rings.
That Bulls team was pretty good. They had a prime Jakeem Noah. They had Luol Deng. They had Derrick Rose. I mean, that
Luol Deng turned into a bust though.
he did, but he was a solid defensive guy,
Yeah.
3-and-D guy. But I mean, they had a nice supporting cast, and I remember watching that the playoff game. He got hurt when they were playing the Sixers.
You were watching it live? Oh yeah, yeah.
They were playing the Sixers, and Thibodeau. I think they were up by 15 or 20 or something, and with a minute left in the fourth, he was still in the game. Right, and I'm seeing that now with Thibodeau on the Knicks. Like he played, I think it was Josh Hart 48 minutes, and then he played this other guy Deuce McBride 48 minutes in 2 separate weeks. Like he's known for that, like playing guys longer. And I mean, I know it's upsetting to think about, but when the Sixers did play the Bulls the next game, I think they were, or was it later in the series? I think the Sixers were up 3-2, and then I just remember the play where Iguodala was driving in and he got fouled, and he hit both free throws, and it moved the Sixers on to the next round. I loved that Sixers team, man, with Iguodala, Lou Williams, Spencer Hawes, Evan Turner. Like, oh
Dude,
my gosh, that era.
One of my... It's a bittersweet era when I think about this, but do you remember the Ersan Ilyasova... We had the
Ball
Ursa-
Gerald Henderson.
Oh my gosh, dude! Sixers legend, Gerald Henderson.
Robert Covington.
Oh, Rocco,
Dude,
yeah.
The one game winner he had 2 game winners that season. The one game winner was T.J. McConnell brought the ball up, and he just dished it to Covington. He's like double contested. He shoots the 3, and he made it's like McConnell's gonna pass it to Covington for the lead. Yes. I'm like, what is that shot?
Dude, my least favorite era of the Sixers was when we got, I think it was the year after we got Al Horford.
Yeah.
I can't stand Al Horford, bro. And then every time he plays us, he just cooks us.
Now he's like 38 years old and still cooks us. The Celtics.
Speaking of 38, let's talk about LeBron.
Yeah, let's talk about LeBron. You know what I mean? You mean the second GOAT?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no. LeBron has been in the league longer than I've been alive.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's crazy. What was his debut in 2003?
I've been...
Yeah, 2003.
So he's been in the league 3 years longer than I've existed. I wasn't even a thought by my parents, and and LeBron was just balling.
That's unreal to think about. I mean, just he's still like playing like consistently at.
He's one of the best
38.
players in the world still, and it's crazy. And it's like you gotta wonder, how is he still playing at this level? Now, you want to talk about conspiracies? I have one. It's an uncommon conspiracy theory,
Okay.
and I'm gonna seem crazy for saying this, but I already seem crazy, so let me continue. My conspiracy, very, very out there. LeBron James has some dark forces with him. He's like, I think he's in some kind of like part of the occult. And he uses demonic forces to be at this level. Because the reason why I say that, and it sounds so ridiculous, like, Mark, what are you yapping about, right? Let me explain. The idolatry that happens with LeBron, with just LeBron's name. I'll give you a couple examples. People idolize LeBron so much that they call him their glorious king. And I've actually legit heard people say, isn't LeBron just the best person in the world? He is amazing. He's this, that, and the other. And it's like, it just kind of gives me the skeeves because, like, even when people say, oh, you know, he's a god. Like, ooh. Like,
I
you're
don't
treading,
like that.
you got to tread carefully, right? And now look, you could argue about the GOAT debate, this, that, right? And people have argued that Michael Jordan has had relations to the occult, right? Once again, complete conspiracy.
Let me pull up
Yeah.
just an Instagram comment section for LeBron James.
Oh, are you
And-
talking about that one where he did like the signs?
No,
Oh,
just
I'm gonna pop that video on screen.
just the
him
comment
in the pregame.
section.
That's where I get my thought process from.
Oh my
Pregame,
God.
you saw that, right? He did like the sign of the Illuminati. He did some like dark magic type stuff. It was weird. I'll put the video on screen.
So, here is a comment that I see all over Instagram. Boy, oh boy, where do I even...
wait. You started with boy, oh boy.
That's how it starts. LeBron, honey, my Pookie Bear. I have loved you ever since I first laid eyes on you.
What?
Fear, the way you drive into the paint and strike fear into your enemy's eyes. Your silky smooth touch
Yeah.
around the rim and that gorgeous jump shot. I would do anything for you. I wish it was possible to freeze time. You had a rough childhood, but you never gave up hope. You are even amazing off the court. You are a great husband and father, and sometimes I even call you dad. I forever dread and weep thinking of the day you will one day retire. I would sacrifice my own life if you were the only thing that could have given me so much joy and heartbreak over the years. I remember when you first left Cleveland, and it's like my heart got broken into a million pieces, but a tear still fell from my right eye when I watched you win your first ring in Miami, because deep down, my glorious king deserved it. I just wanted you to return home. Then alas, you did. My sweet baby boy came home, and I rejoiced. 2015 was a hard year for us, but in 2016, you made history happen. You came back from 3-1, and I couldn't believe it. I was crying, bawling even, and I heard my glorious king exclaim these words, Cleveland! This is for you! Not only have you changed the game of basketball and the world forever, but you're eternally changed my world. And now you're getting older, but still my goat. My goat. I love you, Pookie Bear, my glorious king,
that's so disgusting.
LeBron James.
That's so disgusting. Let me make sure the camera's still recording.
Yeah, let's take an intermission.
Okay, we're chilling.
Let's take an intermission.
Quick intermission after that.
All right, so
And we back.
so that was a great way to end the first half, or
Oh,
least
first
the
half.
beginning.
Okay, that's tough. That's tough.
so the idolization for athletes is crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I think honestly, we do it without even thinking about it sometimes. Like,
And we could think about, you and I both know who I'm talking about.
we do not mention him on this podcast.
We did not. But we have somebody that we both know that will defend LeBron till the end of time.
And he knows we're talking about
You
him.
know who we're talking about. We're talking about you, bro. If you got to the end of this pod, you know who we're talking about. Well,
Personally,
you are you, but shut up. Shut up.
Personally, I think that's a little bit of my fault. But
You spawned that into
to
him.
be
Yes,
fair,
you
I didn't go insane like my Pookie Bear. Like, what's that? What's that?
Yeah,
But-
I would if somebody were to call me a Pookie Bear, I think I would have to staple my ears shut.
Well, my boy, I do it to my boy at work. He's fine with it.
It's pretty gross.
But anyway, so my next question. So we always say how too much of anything is bad for you, right?
Sure.
Do you think there's ever anything that is you could do so much to the point where it's not bad for you? So say, for example, do you think maybe too much working out is bad for you? Do you think maybe drinking too much water is bad for you? Do you think like
okay.
just examples
Yeah.
to talk about? Maybe give you something.
Well, okay, if you're saying too much water is bad for you, you can drown your kidneys. So yeah, David Goggins would argue that too much working out doesn't exist. So, something that you could do so much to the point where it's not bad. So like, if you're saying if you don't do it a lot, it's gonna be bad, but if you do it a lot more, it's gonna be good.
Sort of, yeah. I can kind of go for that.
Okay.
I can't, because honestly, I can't think of anything.
Yeah, I think life is a lot about balance. And now, by me saying life is a lot about balance, all the Andrew Tate stands are gonna be like, whoa. You only work 7 hours a day and you get no breaks, and then you have fun. There's no such thing as balance, right? I used to think that too, but you have such a limited time on this earth, so you might as well enjoy the time you have and have some balance, right? One of my favorite movies is Karate Kid. Mr. Miyagi, my man, talked about balance. Anyway, something that you could do so much to the point where it's actually good.
I have one actually.
Yeah,
Pray.
it's a good one.
Because I think you
Yeah,
can
I think
never
that's like the only thing. It's just
you
getting
can
closer
never
to God.
you
Yeah.
can never pray too much. I think God is always wants to hear from you.
That's good.
Even
yeah.
if you're in maybe, and this is actually another question I just came up with. What are your thoughts on prayer in public? Are you a big advocate for how they say in the Bible, pray in private? Or,
Yeah, I mean,
know,
I think that you shouldn't try to well, Jesus said, don't be like the Pharisees, that just pray on the corner and like try to make themselves look great. Like go to your private inner room and talk to God. I think that true good prayer is when you're having a one-on-one dialogue, not a monologue, a dialogue with the Lord. And yeah, see, I've had like a thought, like you've seen those people that will like just go out on the street and they just start preaching in the middle of like a street. My thoughts on it are like, well, if they want to know, I think they would actually go somewhere to try to get close to God. But if they're just walking in the street, you're just gonna anger them more by trying to shove the Bible in their face.
yeah, everyone's busy, everyone's always walking, they
Yeah.
gotta do stuff. That's why, like, when I'm down the shore, like along the coast, it's like you're people are trying to preach that people just want to go. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of annoys them if someone comes up to say, "Hey, do you know if you're making it to heaven or not?" Like that's always a controversial
Oh
thing to
yeah,
think about.
that's like the TikTok
some
preachers.
some people are just trying to go to the beach, or maybe
Yeah.
they of course, and it's not like they don't have time for God. It's just a
Yeah,
matter
they're
of
just trying to
do their stuff, and
But
that's
then you say, well, oh, so you can't enjoy your time without God or with God? Well, I mean, look, like you have God in mind, but like you don't need to hear from some random guy if you're going to heaven. And I think the other thing is like we can't judge that.
we can't.
If I were to say to you, hey man, you're not going to heaven, who am I to say that, right? So, and then you got to wonder, well, I've had this thought in my mind for a while, right? Let's say somebody was born in a place where they had no exposure to
I
Christianity,
know
or
where
they
you're
don't
going.
know anything about Christ, but they were a good person. What happens? Because it said, through Jesus we're saved, not our good deeds, but through our faith.
Yes.
But faith without good works is worth nothing. So let's say you have one but not the other.
That's where your other thought came in about balance.
Yeah.
I think that's a great thought now. That just kind of applies to this as well. You have great faith and have great works. You never have one or the other. And that's where balance comes in.
Right, but let's just say for hypothetical situations, somebody that's never been exposed to Christ.
What happens?
Because then you gotta say, well, wouldn't you agree God is fair and just?
Oh, of course.
So do you think he would say, oh, you didn't believe in Christ? Well, I wasn't exposed to Christ. Get out of my sight. Like, that's just not happening.
I think that Jesus is a very fair, what's the word I'm looking for? Fair God. I think that given your situation, he will apply himself into it, judging like how you're living. Like, and I had this conversation with somebody, and they mentioned, say, people who have like ADHD, anxiety, or just anything that they're impaired in some way, shape, or form to thinking, right? Say they can't compute certain things or can't compute like certain information. Like God will insert himself into that situation and say, hey, I'm gonna put myself in a position to where you can understand me. I'm gonna make it fair for you to learn me. So that's kind of where I feel like, say, like if you're blind or you're deaf, it's like sometimes, if you can't see it, God will make sure you see it, or you can't hear it,
If
God
they
will
have
make sure you hear.
eyes, let them see. If they have ears, let them hear.
Yep. So that's kind of where I think, like, that's my thought, is God will make it fair for you to learn. Even if you weren't born into that situation, I think God will make something happen to where you have an opportunity.
So then there's another verse that says, Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, and nobody gets to the Father except through him. Except through him. So if we were to go by that, then that means people that are not Christian have no chance. Like, let's say you were born into the Islamic faith. Oh, well, they believe Jesus was a prophet. Oh, so does that mean they're just done for? But then there's the idea of universalism, that one day everybody will be
Everybody.
saved. And if you look back into the history of it, there's a lot of evidence for it, and that in the early churches, right, there was a lot of mistranslations after, and then, of course, kings, just changed some of the words in the Bible for control. I'm not going to get into all that right now. That's a conversation for another day. But there are certain parts of the Bible where there's mistranslations for the word eternal and forever, and it's like, I believe the translation was indefinite. So, yeah, maybe you might go to hell, unfortunately, but it's not going to be forever. It's just going to be a purifying period. I don't know, though. I've never been to heaven or hell. I haven't died yet, so I couldn't tell you.
Another thought to think about is, I know it's like I don't want to play with God's judgment or God's
Right,
word
yeah,
of
yeah.
anything, but just to think about, like, when you die, say you weren't saved, and just going off what you said about purification, do you think that, if you die and you didn't give your life to Jesus, you weren't close to him, and he separates you from him for that indefinite period, not for all eternity, and to put you through that purification process, do you think that you are given that scare, and then you are starting a new life for redemption? Do you think God gives you a second chance
Like reincarnation?
in another person's body? Yes. So do you think maybe God puts you through that period of the purification, or in that hell, um, just for you to open your eyes, and then he
Well,
says,
I think our soul doesn't have a physical body. So I think, like, when we die physically, our physical body is still in the soil of the earth. It's just going to decay. But our soul rises, right? Metaphorically rises. I'm not saying heaven is here and hell is here. I'm just saying, like, metaphorically. But, see, look, this is just
all speculation.
all speculation. But for my own belief, I think that God created all of us for a reason. He didn't create us to just banish some of us. No, he wants all of us to be with him. And so, yeah, I mean, some people might have to go through a longer purification process than others. But here's the thing. You may be thinking, well, why can't he just say, it's okay, why don't we just go up to heaven now? Why is there a whole process anyway? If he is God, why didn't he just create us perfect, and then there we are? Questions I can't answer. But then again, you could say, well, it probably would be a bit boring if we were all perfect.
Yeah, right. It would be.
But here's what I'll say. And this is probably the end of this conversation here because, well, there's not really else much to say about it because it's all speculation. But from what I've learned in my life here on Earth is that you can't see the light until you've seen the darkness. You can't appreciate it until you've been through the hard stuff. And then when you're actually out of it, you're out the trenches, you can appreciate it and see the world for what it is.
Another thing I want to talk on with, spirit rising, I feel like there's two bodies you go. You have your physical body and then you have your spiritual body. And once you pass and you've given your life to Jesus, you've given your life to God, and you've expressed with your mouth that he is in your heart and that you love him, you trust him with your life. When you pass away, I feel like our physical body cannot withstand the power of heaven. So that's why our body has to go through a spiritual body and a purification process for our soul so that we can adjust to the frequencies of heaven. I mean, just seeing it's probably extremely bright. Your body can't.
Well, whenever God appeared to humans, I believe he appeared to, who was it? Was it when he appeared to, when was it the burning bush? Was it Moses?
I'm not too familiar.
God appeared, he was on top of a hill, and he appeared to somebody as a burning bush. I believe it was Moses. And the light was so bright that he had to look away like this. God's light is so bright because our eyes can't.
You can't comprehend that, and you can't register that.
And then I'll piggyback off of this with a creation. There's so much discourse with it, and I've actually made a video that got a lot of backlash about the Big Bang does not explain creation. Bold statement. However, the problem that I have with the Big Bang Theory is that it starts out with a cause. But there has to be a cause for the cause then. So then you say, oh, well, the cause for the Big Bang was, heat, particles, dense point. Who created the heat, particles, and dense point?
Yeah, that's always a thought.
And then you have evolutionism, Darwinism. But if you look at in Genesis, right, you have each day. Now, all this stuff happened over millions and billions of years, but who's to say God didn't do all this in billions and millions of years? His day must be different from our day, because if he is truly all-powerful and all-knowing and all-God, he's just infinite, then that would mean he's not restricted to time, space, matter, and energy.
Yeah. Another thing to think about, right? Before that happened, what was before God?
Nothing. God just was. Dude, I asked myself the same question. No, yeah. Okay, so that's why it's hard for people to actually have faith. Is because, well, it doesn't make sense to us.
Because this world started. But what came before?
We can figure out how this
start?
world started, but then, how did God start?
Like,
who created
who
God?
put
Nobody.
God?
Nobody created God.
Does God have a God? But then who created God's God? Like, it's like a whole thing. Like, I thought about that.
Because whatever you...
Like...
So then, even with the Big Bang, you could say, well, it's the same argument then. Because then you could say, well, how does it need a cause? But then you would think, well... Then that would mean not even... No, this is going to bend your mind. So then, if God didn't exist, then nothing would not exist. Because you can't have, like, empty space if there's nothing. But then nothing wouldn't... What? So, no, like, okay, so let's say, like, let's say you're picturing the world without God. So you're just picturing blackness, right? Just darkness?
Okay.
There's no darkness. There's nothing.
It's like the one episode of SpongeBob where...
Oh my god!
What was that, SB-129? Yeah, it was
Oh, the time travel?
Yeah, and
future!
That's what the world would look like.
Just white?
Squares coming at you.
Oh no, just alone. Sorry about that, we had some technical difficulties. We're back.
So, but that's like a interesting thing. I mean, back in 1999 when they made that episode, it was like...
Damn, wait, whoa! SpongeBob, how long has it been running now?
25 years. It's
Once again, another thing that's
older than you.
And older than you!
That's insane. But
what
like
are your thoughts on SpongeBob running so long, too? Like, they just ruined it.
I think the creator is rolling around in his grave. I think...
his physical body is.
Yeah. I think it's like a disgrace that they even use new technology.
So, would you say that they should have ended it like as quality over quantity?
I would have done that.
About the longevity?
I would have done that, but at the same time, I also think that Nickelodeon has... I mean, we were just talking about Nickelodeon earlier.
Yeah, that
and the downfall, but I think that this just doesn't go with SpongeBob, but it goes with anything. Like, I think their quality of their shows have really just decreased.
Oh, yeah.
Like, it's like, I think they're trying to still apply to the younger audience, but I think cell phones apply to the younger audience now.
Yeah, and they're just trying to get more flashing colors and, like...
And it's like...
overstimulation.
It's definitely not working. Yeah. It's
so
not working.
You would agree you would rather have, like just a quality SpongeBob and then end it instead of dragging it out.
Even the bad quality.
Yeah. So you'd say quality over longevity.
Well, funny enough, like the bad quality back in the day, like early, like 1999, 2000, like when cameras or animation wasn't at its best, that was when it was great. So
Yeah,
that's
it
why
just felt
that's my
more raw
argument.
and like.
So
You would say quality over longevity.
I would say that.
So
I would say
isn't that a great argument for why Michael Jordan's the greatest player of all time, not LeBron James? Sorry,
You mean not Wilt Chamberlain?
not Will Chamberlain.
I mean, but think about Wilt Chamberlain. He averaged 50 points per game and 20 rebounds. And
Dude, those numbers are crazy. Hey, Will, how'd you do last season? Oh, I averaged 50 and 20 a night. Nothing major. But then again, was he playing against plumbers?
But then again, the argument is Nate Thurmond, Bill
Dude,
Russell.
have you seen pictures of Nate Thurmond?
Yeah, he's
jacked.
buff. I know, like I said, if my boy Rodney watches this video, he's gonna be, oh, get out of here with that nut. He's like, you
Get outta here.
youngins don't know anything.
Oh man, just take a step in. Why are you taking the three? Take the high quality shot, the deep mid range, the deep two. Take the deep two.
And the argument is 38% for three, 44 for mid. It's a higher quality shot. I don't need you.
Okay, so wait a minute. How did we go from the existence of God and the creation to now SpongeBob? And then to Wilt Chamberlain and old age.
That's just how it is.
Love that.
You need a 7'5" center shooting threes. Get your ass in the paint. Get in the paint. Oh my
man.
gosh. That's crazy though to think about. Like, I mean, just going back to our old thing is like,
Yeah, God's just that guy.
he is.
Yeah, or that thing.
I mean,
So then, is God a he or a she? Because he's referenced in the Bible as a him, like
but he's
his word.
everything.
But then Jesus was a him, because so maybe they're just saying that because Jesus was the physical form of a man.
Yeah.
But then why did God make Jesus a man instead of a woman?
That's a lot.
So then who's to say that God is a he or a she? Because if he was a he or a she, that would mean he's restricted to the same things that we're restricted to: matter, energy.
Whenever I think about God, I just think about, I think about a man, and how they draw him up, like
Like the white beard.
yeah.
It's just
like,
not.
like that's
He's
just,
probably just like a ball of energy. Or it's a ball of energy.
think of it like this, and this is
Or
another
not
thought.
energy. I
Here's
don't
another
know.
thought that I had.
Yeah.
Christmas time, naughty or nice, Santa Claus. I don't know where I'm going with that. No, but think about like Santa Claus. A big jolly guy who's magical, who goes to reward the good kids, but the bad kids don't get anything. I mean, that of course Christmas.
Well, that's just a tradition, I guess. Oh, but
like that's what I always envisioned God, not a Santa Claus, obviously. Like
yeah,
but because then if you would say God is Santa Claus, then
but it says
it's
God
not.
the Father. So, and it says, you have God the Father, and then Jesus seated at his right hand.
But that's how they always drew him up. Just white beard, big jolly guy.
Have you ever seen? There was, I think it was like some Russian girl. She painted this beautiful portrait of what supposedly Jesus Christ looked like. And people that have stories of like themselves like meeting Jesus or having a spiritual experience, they said that's exactly the man that I saw. And they said that was the most accurate depiction of him. They haven't seen anything else. Because the reason why I find that to be so interesting is because the depiction of Jesus that she had was just different than the other
others.
The other ones was like a white dude with just a brown beard, long hair. This one, he had kind of like messy hair, and they said his eyes were so spot on. It was something about his green, bluish colored eyes. It's food for thought. But is it wrong to try to depict what God looks like then?
I wouldn't say it is.
Because I guess you couldn't really figure it out, even if you spend years trying to do it. We're human, so I believe there's a verse, it's like looking through a veil, or a dirty veil, or something like that.
There's a lot of wisdom and a lot of stuff that we don't know that
there's questions that
we are never going to have the answer to.
Oh, no. Well, maybe one day, but he's probably not, he might not give us that wisdom. He didn't give it to Adam. Oh, yeah, speaking of which.
I already know what the question is.
Did Adam and Eve have belly buttons?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Come on, man. You gotta know this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
So wait, this is something that I've been so confused about too. Why did Adam and Eve, Cain and Abel, like all the first humans live for like 700, 600 years? And when did it get to the point when they just stopped living that long? Like, when was that change when they said, you know what? You got about 5 decades. Because they didn't have modern medicine either. You got 5
really-
decades.
That's really interesting.
There's probably some answer for it, and I'm just too dumb to think about it, but yeah.
That's a really good question.
Yeah, because why don't we live 600, 700 years?
At the rate we're going, I could see that.
Shoot.
Maybe not 600, but
Not naturally.
definitely
I
100.
mean, we could probably do it in unnatural ways. Like, who was it? Walt Disney? He froze himself so that one day, if we have the technology, he can be put into like a robot body.
We're going to have that technology.
So that's weird to think Walt Disney would do something like that, because you think, well, then that must mean, of course, he didn't believe there was a God.
Yeah,
So
there
then
was
let's
always that
say
question.
he was in the afterlife, but then God's like, ooh, sorry, they just revived you. Get back down there.
Yeah. That's...
And he'll be like, wait, no, I'm sorry.
Too late.
You froze yourself, too late.
But then again, would you think that he would still have prior knowledge to God if he were to have it, like, if he were to get brought back to life? Like, say he got froze.
Yeah, would he
He's
be a
up
medium
there.
now?
Like,
But
he know? Would he know that God? If he knows God exists, what is stopping him from preaching the gospel every day? You saw it. But then again, you also think about that, like we're living a life knowing that, everything we're reading about may not be true.
Yeah.
But I would much rather, you too, but I would much rather follow something that is preached about in the Bible and everywhere and be wrong rather than to not learn about it and then then
what's
you're
the
separated.
worst thing that can happen? Atheists were right, and then there's nothing after. Okay, well, that kind of sucks, but all right, fair enough. At least I'm just nothing. But let's say the Christians are right, and there is a God, and I really think there is, and I think Jesus is the way, but, that's neither here nor there. Then, good for you, But, and there's so much about, like, fellowship. Go and preach. And I've battled with that because it's like, well, is that really my place? Like, I'm just a sinner just like everybody else.
Yep.
But then, well, you look at the 12, apostles, and they were sinners as well. I just think it's a bit much to go out in the street and just try to preach the gospel or something.
Yeah.
If that's a hurtful way in me, Lord, forgive me, right? But like I said, if people have the ears to hear, they'll listen. And what I've found is, like, if people come to me for advice, if they want to hear, I'll talk about it. If I think the time is right, I'll mention it. But outside of that, I'm not just going up to people saying, follow the Lord Jesus Christ. Because then they think it's cult-like. Because it sounds like it.
Turns people away.
It turns people away, and that's the last thing you want to do. Right? If I were to just say, hey, Christianity is wrong, Islam is the way to go, are you going to be more inclined to go with me? Or what if I came up to you and said, hey, look, I want to talk to you real quick. I know you're very passionate about X, but I think Y could be a new idea for you, right? I think there's a more delicate way to go about it, and stop trying to, like, say, oh, you're going to hell, like, dude.
That's the worst way to go about it.
Yeah.
I think there's also maybe some pressure on just everybody now, like,
yeah,
because of how we have social media. We don't have an excuse not to be like, not to say anything. Like, we don't have that excuse anymore because we have social media. We can outsource and we can speak about it. Back in the day, like, way before technology, you couldn't use that. You can use the methods like Instagram. You can, we're so lucky we could post something about Jesus and put it on there, or just repost something, right? Just say thank God for this, right? Like, you can say all that.
I think look, I have my own testimony. Like, I'm very passionate about it because I actually did experience, I had an experience with God one time. Actually, twice. But this one is the one where I actually heard God's voice, right? And so I'm very passionate about it. There's been a lot of miracles performed in my life, and it's just like, there's no way that's a coincidence. But talking about it openly versus saying if you don't get saved right now, you're going to hell, I think those are two different things. Because if you were to go up to somebody, like I said, like, and just say, hey, follow Christ or perish in hell and burn, people are going to, like, almost make fun of it. Like, look at this wacko that says I'm going to burn in some interdimensional...
Especially if you know the gospel already, and you know that's not the proper way to go about it.
Exactly. And stop trying to be so judgmental. Like, if I were to, like, some of my friends aren't Christians, and I'm not just going to say, oh my gosh, bro, if you're not Christian, you're going to burn in hell. No. I've had debates with some of my friends that are atheists. I've talked to some of my friends that are Muslim, and they're very respectful about it, because I am too. But if I was to say to them, you're wrong, they're going to be disrespectful in return, because, well, of course they are, right? Mm-hmm. That's just how we are. But I think at the end of the day, be a good person. Of course, you can't say that either, because they say good works without faith is not... It's tough. Be a good person and just pray about it. If, even if you're atheist, my advice to all atheists is always just pray one time. Just say, Lord, I don't know if you exist. I've heard so much about it. I don't know. But Lord, if you exist, I give my all to you. And
show me a sign.
They say asking to be shown a sign is also demonic, though. Like,
is it?
Yeah. I believe it was, you should never put God to the test.
Okay.
So you gotta be careful as well. But then it's like, well, my faith tells me, if you knock, the door shall be opened up to you. Look, ignore all that. All right. If you truly are questioning whether or not God is real, just go into your private inner room and just pray and see what happens. Give your all to God. Just say, look, I don't know if you're real, but if you are, look, I give my all to you and I'll serve you. Please, just help me out. My faith tells me that he'll answer your prayer. That's what my faith tells me. But that's really all there is to say about that. All right. I think this is going to end the first ever Mark Drop podcast. If you made it this far,
you're a real one.
You're a real one, man. This is
a great start.
This is historic. This is the origin story, man.
We're going to have 100 of these, and then you'll look all the way back to episode 1.
Oh, my gosh. We're going to have, like, the most famous guests we can find. Like
LeBron James will come. No. No.
LeBron James is not welcome on the pod.
You have Shaquille O'Neal come down here or something. I don't know.
We'll have to get a wider camera lens for him.
But definitely it'll be a great opportunity for you and the channel itself. Just
sure, man.
Creating something new.
I appreciate everybody that's watched this, and if you like what I'm saying, you like my message, check out the Discord, top link in the description. But I think that's really it. Nick, you wanna send them out with me? As always, keep God first.
God first.
Good luck, bro.
All right, let's see.
Let's go!